Hey guys, what is happening? Carter here, coming at you with another knife video. This is on the ZT-GTC, as you can see right here. Very cool blade. Not so much of an overall review or an in-depth review, but just kind of some impressions, a quick look at it, so you guys can make a decision if you want to buy it or not. So this has been out for a little while now. Very cool, designed by GTC, Gustavo. I always mess up his middle and last name, but he is a knife designer who's been in the game for quite a while, kind of doing some really nice futuristic type designs like you can see here. This is based off of a custom design that he does, and of course he modified it for zero tolerance so that they could produce a production version of this knife. It is a flipper, but it does have a really cool kind of gimmick or feature, which is this tab right here. As you can see, it's kind of out of the way when it's in the closed position. It's spring loaded, so it comes down like here, and that's how you actually flip the knife. Has a kind of a modified Wharncliffe compound ground blade. You can see right there, flat ground. More obtuse here, more acute here, or wait, maybe I have that backwards. Maybe it's more obtuse here, more acute here. But you can see it's going to be a little bit more of a slicer right here. A little heavier behind the edge right here. Nice tip. Fairly thick, robust. Really cool blade design. This is geared more towards the enthusiast, I would say, as opposed to maybe a user. So I'm going to take that into account when I recommend whether you should pick this up or not. Titanium handle, S35 VN. Let's take a look at the markings right there. 0055 KAI USA GTC design. Serial number S35 VN, patent pending. I assume that has to do with the flipper. Oh, that reminds me. Didn't get to that point. So kind of out of the way in the closed position. It's pretty nice because you put it in your pocket. You don't have a flipper sticking out right there. But when it's in the open position, it is completely gone, which is really, really cool. You can see how it folds right there. So you can amaze your friends. If you show them this knife, they are going to be mind-boggled on how you open this thing. They're going to say, there's no thumb stud. There's no spider hole. There's no trough milled into the blade, and there's no flipper tab. How did you possibly open this? Can't be a fixed blade. I see the pivot right there. I mean, it's like a party trick, kind of. But all jokes aside, it is pretty cool how it gets out of the way. You can either do it a full kind of start to finish type thing, or you can pull it down here, plop it open. Really, really cool. Let's do a size comparison. So, usual size comparison is the Spyderco Paramilitary. You can see right there, a little bit larger, not too crazy. It's actually fairly light. I'll put the specs down in the description. Fairly light for a full titanium knife. Really, it's because it's fairly slim in the width right there. You can see. One of the other cool features I like about this is the blade to handle ratio. At certain angles, it almost looks, particularly like this, it almost looks like the blade won't fit in the handle. So that's really cool. Very good blade to handle ratio. You get a lot of blade for the handle, obviously, which is the point of saying good ratio, kind of being redundant. And you can see, when you close it, you can see how it fits perfectly in there, and that's why, because there's very little overhang. However, the tip does not poke out, doesn't cut you, anything like that. Backspacer, anodized titanium, somewhat floating. It's an attempt at a floating backspacer. If you look at it kind of like that, it kind of looks like it is, but not really the best example of a floating backspacer, but it's a cool attempt. I like it. Adds a little splash of color. Lockbar insert, your usual stuff. It's kind of funny. Years ago, these were all very noteworthy features. Now, they're fairly standard. Most titanium production knives have lockbar inserts, things like that. Caged bearing system, KVT, like the usual zero tolerance thing. The pivot looks kind of cool. It's got a little, some grooves cut into it, gives it a little embellishment, makes it look a little nicer, a little more ornate. But overall, Really cool flipper. Flippers are not my favorite. I don't love flippers particularly. However, this one is really, really cool. I will note, well, first of all, let's look at the handle a little bit more. Stonewash finish. Has these milling marks right here, which is kind of cool. Adds a little more design to it, kind of on-purpose milling. You do have a lanyard hole. Overall, very comfortable. Despite the kind of angular features, it is very comfortable. You can see the back fat of my hand right here hits that angle right there. Really nice. No jimping to speak of, but you know, I personally think jimping is overrated. People talk about jimping like anybody actually uses it that much, and maybe I'll do a different video on that, but to me, as long as you can put your thumb on the blade and get that control, I've never had an issue cutting where my thumb is just slipping all over the place. And I'm like, man, wish I had some more jimping. But maybe that's just me. Maybe some people do that. Very cool blade. The blade itself is serviceable. Obviously, you can use this for cutting tasks. Is this necessarily the best user design out there? No, I wouldn't think so. This is for people that enjoy knives, they like knives, they think they look cool. Obviously, this can be used as a EDC or, you know, just a knife carry for whatever task you may have in front of you. You can sharpen it. Got a couple different angles here. It's not too difficult, but if you are a guy who just wants to throw a knife in their pocket and kind of use it and aren't interested in the design features, the designer, or kind of this flipper tab thing, then I don't know if it's necessarily for you, but really cool knife. Really the only 2017 ZT that caught my eye and said, I've got to get this. Everything else, not so much. I will say one thing though, when I got this, the detent was a little too strong. It was hurting my poor little finger, my poor sad little finger. Was hurting it a little bit because it was really difficult to launch this thing. On top of that, you know, this isn't the most comfortable flipper tab out there. You kind of catch this angle in the back. So I took it apart, easy to do. Took out the lock bar insert and removed some tension from the lock bar, and now it is perfect. Fires like a champ. I cannot get it to not fire, even with, let me try it. Yeah, see, even when I do it as light as I can, when it breaks, it still fires. Blade, no matter how much I shake it, I won't do it because I'll knock over the camera. I cannot get the blade to come out. So plenty of lock bar tension still, but it did come with a little too much outside of the box unnecessarily. I don't know if that's a common thing or just mine, but that's how it was, but it was easy to fix. Easy to fix, you're not really going to screw it up. Adjusting the lock bar tension, you just want to make sure you note where it was, and then you just do it in small increments, put it back together, give it a shot. No big deal. I would recommend this knife to anybody that enjoys ZTs. If you're on the fence, if you're not quite sure if it's cool, it is a really cool blade, looks really cool, functions really cool, absolutely love it. I totally recommend it. All right, guys, later.